he's always the first person to wish me on my birthday. From that time, like from the year that I started working with him, 5 बजे या 6 बजे के बाद आप घर से बाहर नहीं निकल सकते क्योंकि आप लड़की हैं. तुम मत करो, सामने वाला तो करेगा ही. You know, it's one of those things that you're always taught. आप magazines में आओगे, but वो कागज है, वो आएगा और चला जाएगा. But film is there to stay. It'll always stay. The Me Too movement has been entirely diluted because of this. Because it became a revenge story after a point.
नसीर साहब के बारे में ज्यादा बात नहीं करेंगे, आपको रोना आ जाता है.
अरे मैं नहीं रोऊंगी. God, Faridoon.
Aahana, welcome on Bollywood Hungama and congratulations.
Thank you, Faridoon. Good to see you again.
You know, many a times it happens that when a certain artist wins an award, that's when you suddenly wake up and notice that what really must be in that series or film. So I watched Marzi today.
Oh, you did?
I did, yeah. So earlier maybe because you know क्या होता है, आपके इतने shows आपके आते रहते हैं, हर महीने 2 shows आपके आ जाते हैं, तो फिर आदमी क्या देखे?
मैं तो इतने घंघोर.
नहीं. This is an excuse for not watching it earlier, but I think really commendable performance.
Thank you.
Really commendable. You know, first of all, what are your thoughts when you get a congratulatory message from someone like Mr. Bachchan? How important is that to you?
I think it's very important, and I think it speaks so much about him because you know it definitely shows that you know that he respects me as an actor. He's somebody who respects you as a talent. He is somebody who's the mega star of our generation. He's 78, works every day of his life. I started my career with him. You know, I saw him work. The first time I entered a big set, I saw the way he works, the way he walks in set, the way he's on time, the way he sits on set. You know, while the lighting is going on, he doesn't go back to his vanity. You know, he sits and talks to all of us, like even whether you're a young actor, old actor, you know, he respects you. And I think for me, I have such a beautiful bond with Mr. Bachchan. It becomes so special because, you know, as I've always said that he's always the first person to wish me on my birthday. From that time, like from the year that I started working with him, since after that, till present date, you know, so it speaks so much about how particular he is about, keeping in touch, staying, it really says everything about him. Yeah, it's like for me, it's bigger than any award that such a big actor is, recognizing me or is even like, is acknowledging me or acknowledging my work.
But, you know, awards, I think, do matter, especially when they're coming from such a stage as this. And you're winning a Best Actress award. I
mean, of course, in fact, I don't think... we had a lot of interviews when Marzi happened, and I was very happy. I was very thrilled the way the show had taken off. A lot of people had watched it. A lot of people liked the show, and it's a BBC series that has won a BAFTA. And and I knew that it's going to be a short hit in India, or at least there will be a big audience for it in India, because I think this is a conversation that's that crosses boundaries. It speaks about like it talks about consent, which is I think universal conversation through it's everywhere, whether you're in India, whether in the UK. And when I watched the original, that scene where the sister asks her, "Are you sure you had too much to drink? I drank too much." And I think like for me, I was like, oh my God, like this is like something that somebody would ask me here. And, it's the same question that her sister's asking her there. And I'm just like, what the hell, So I just feel like it's so relevant to, every boundary and every country. And so when the show came to me, I was just like, this conversation needs to be done. ये इतना relevant show है that this is definitely going to work, and definitely an award validates the fact that you have poured your heart out into the into the show and your soul out into it, and you should be validated for the work that you do, because only then sometimes I think people take notice of you and they go like, okay, you know what, maybe we should think of casting her for this part as well.
The best part that I really liked was the fact that dilemma that your character has. She's battling with depression, and then she's just coming out of a relationship, and maybe that she be the one who may be wrong. So that element of dilemma that you bring up, right? I think that was wonderfully done.
Yeah, that was very well written in the show.
Right.
And I think it
But still, all your
So I
preparation
think it
back.
becomes a relevant conversation in today's times. I guess post
Mm-hmm.
lockdown with so much happening around us, when when we actually
Mm.
mental health has become like a conversation. The show became even more relevant to me in today's times. So when we were shooting the show, I knew that the character has borderline depression and she has anxiety, and she's on medication for that. She's coming out of a long relationship, and she's already done something like this in the past. And I knew like the first few episodes are going to be bordering on whether she actually did it, whether he actually did it, or whether this actually happened, or is she lying and like trying to pull him into a web of lies, which is what
Mm.
the tagline of the show is, also the game of lies. And well, the preps for the show were quite immense, because as women, I've spoken this earlier, but as women, we get violated at a lot of times in our lives, knowingly, unknowingly. आपके साथ बहुत ऐसी कभी छोटी छोटी चीजें होती हैं, and because we are so conditioned to say to ourselves, जाने दो यार, ठीक है यार, like ये तो होता रहता है, अब छोड़ दो, सॉरी बोल देंगे, it's a very normal thing, and we are so conditioned to forgive and forget, that I think it's so wrong to do that. Specifically, I asked for workshops to be done for this particular character. Thankfully, they did the workshop with all actors, but Mongia was very graceful enough to do the workshop with actors, and it was a trauma workshop that we did for about 3 to 4 days before we went into shoot, because I simply told the makers, मैंने कहा यार देखिए आप समझिए कि although I must have been violated in my life for smaller things, I've never had this kind of a violation, this magnitude of violation. I don't know how it feels to be in that space at that time. How does a person feels when they feel that they are not being heard, when they know that a part of them has completely been lost into the world that they don't think that they can belong to. So I said, please, we have to do workshops. So we did about 3 or 4 days of trauma workshops, and then we went into shoot. Most of my scenes are not with the other co-actors. There are very few scenes that I even have with Rajiv, and I think a little more with Shivani Tande, who plays my sister. I was taught this right in the beginning by Nasir sir, when he had told me, when people will try to distract you on set, people will try to small talk, people will try to chat with you. But when you have something that you need to bar the world out of, just go into a corner or go into a space and seclude yourself. And that's your work. That's part of your job. So I did a lot of that during the series. And I think the 2.5 months that we were shooting, I was a very unpleasant person on set. I was always secluded. I was always alone. I was always riling myself up. If it required me to go run a playground and come and do a scene, I would do that. If it required me to sit under a tree and cry and then come and do a scene, I would do that. So there were lots of things that I had to go back into a lot of emotional memories before I would come into a scene, so that I would rile myself up, and that would instigate me to do a scene of whatever magnitude that it was. But we did cut out a lot of scenes, but there was a lot of times when I felt that I was not being myself, and it really took me about a week to trail off once the show was over, because it was just emotionally very heavy for me to do this entire shoot.
नसीर साहब के बारे में ज्यादा बात नहीं करेंगे, आपको रोना आ जाता है.
अरे नहीं रोंगे, God, Faridoon.
You're saying that you've not been violated in this manner, but why it becomes very convincing when you are saying those dialogues, and when you are saying what you're saying, and you totally mean it, and you stand up for what is right. That you actually stood up for yourself. Many a times people say, but in real life they do compromise. I think like the way almost everyone does, but there have been multiple examples when you have really said what you feel like. Like for example, I believe on the sets of Burkha, there was a lovemaking scene, and Mr. Prakash Jha was there, and apparently was giving you some instructions, and you objected to that, and Alankita requested Prakash sir to just maybe not be there at that point of time. So where someone coming from that space who actually can say what she means, what she needs to say, it makes it so much more convincing.
I think you just have to be honest, Faridoon. I think what has worked for me, at least in my career, and I've always said that, and I'm really a living example that, I've never had to really go into any film parties. I've never had to be part of any gangs, any groups. I've never had to do anything. For me, and I take immense pride that I'm a living example that, if you work on yourself, and if you fearlessly work, and if you have faith in your career, in your craft, then there's nothing in the world that can stop you from getting what you want. And that has happened a lot with me. In terms of, I still audition for every role, and I've told you that, I think, time and time again. I'm doing another 2 series, and the previous one that I shot, I auditioned for that. The one which I'm doing right now, I auditioned for that also. So, I just think like your audiences connect with you when they know that you're an honest person. And I've always believed that a good actor has to be a good person. If you're not a good person within, then you cannot be a good actor, because then you cannot have empathy with the characters that you play. So I feel it's very important to be a good human being. And I've seen most actors who are people I look up to. They're such fantastic human beings, and they lead such normal lives, you know, and they fearlessly speak about what they feel. So only when you have the courage to do that, that's when you can bring that kind of empathy into your work as well.
Anna, we are living in times when we tend to hear a lot of these news reports about the rape culture that is prevalent, and there's a lot of outrage right now, and there's a lot of concern, and all sorts of opinions are there right now. Um, you being a thinking person yourself, do you feel outraged? Do you feel helpless at times?
Of course I do, and I feel horrible about it. And I feel it's very easy to sit in the comfort of your homes with a cell phone in your hand and, write things ki, I resent this and I do that. But when you are in that situation, you don't know how to feel. I'm somebody who's been born and brought up in Lucknow. I know how it is when we were told that 5 बजे या 6 बजे के बाद आप घर से बाहर नहीं निकल सकते क्योंकि आप लड़की हैं. And this is taught to you very early on in your childhood, because you realize that you're a woman. So there are lots of spaces, lots of places that always tell you, remind you constantly that you're a woman, conduct yourself properly. you know तुम मत करो, सामने वाला तो करेगा ही. It's one of those things that you're always taught. And I think that is something that happens not only in India. I think it's a world over phenomenon. हमको लगता है क्योंकि हम इंडिया में बैठे, तो हमको लगता है कि दिस इज ओनली एन इंडियन थॉट, बट दिस इज नॉट एन इंडियन थॉट. दिस हैपेंस everywhere around the globe. And that's because I've traveled, I've met so many people from different stratas of society. And that's when you realize कि यार conditioning ना औरतों के लिए same ही है all across the board. But yes, I was sharing with you earlier that I remember, because when I used to go to college, I was in HR, and I used to go by train. And there were about, I think once, like the three of us just boarded into a train, and वो विरार local की train थी, और it was, I think, rush hour, and we were rushing back like home या कुछ तो था, and we got into the general compartment by mistake. And I still remember that अब मेरी बचपन से टशन करने की आदत है. तो मतलब I know that nobody is going to like take mangas with me. It's like one of those things that has always been part of my, I think it's been part of my demeanor, because that's the way I've been brought up. But I was in the compartment and I felt violated. And it was a train, it was we could not get off at the next station, and then we could not get at the next station, and I think we got out at the third station. And it must have been Dadar or something, because I think we got in at, I don't know, बॉम्बे सेंट्रल से पहले आई थिंक मरीन लाइंस या कहीं तो हम लोग घुसे थे, और उसके बाद जब हम लोग निकले तो हम लोग आई थिंक दादर पे उतरे. एंड आई गॉट आउट कंप्लीटली शेकिंग. एंड for the first time I was just like, I felt like I was a woman who was being violated, and I was a young girl. I must have been like 15, 16 or something at that time, and I felt violated. और ये तो बहुत ही, मतलब मैं ये कह रही हूँ कि ये तो एक वैसा वायलेशन था जो मैं उस मैग्नीट्यूड में काउंट भी नहीं कर सकती हूँ. बट एट दैट पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम, लाइक दिस मेमोरी हैज स्टेड ऑन विद मी फॉरएवर, एंड दिस मेमोरी विल नेवर गो अवे फ्रॉम, मेरे जहन से कभी बाहर निकलेगी ही नहीं ये मेमोरी, क्योंकि आई नो व्हाट आई फेल्ट एट दैट डे. एंड इमेजिन ये औरतों के साथ रोजमर्रा की लाइफ में होता होगा. When a woman is traveling by bus, a woman is traveling by any public transport, this happens at all times. So when something of like a magnitude of rape happens, and that culture is preserved in India, because nothing is done against a rapist, how do you fight a society, or how do you fight a system like that? And it really violates. And then you think about, do I really want to bring girls into this world? Do we want to have children? These are the questions that keep coming to my mind all the time. What are we going to? And instead of really, like, we have a boy in our family, like I have a nephew, and we teach him, how to be gender neutral and not be thinking girl boy. We just don't, because we've realized very early on that we cannot if we don't teach our boys early, then there's no point in bringing those boys up, because they're going to come into a world anyways that society thinks like this. So it boils my blood to think like this.
It is baffling at times when we hear these statements that if a girl is saying that she was raped, but the other allegations are that no, she was in a relationship and for quite a few years, and it cannot be a rape. But the girl is saying that the rape happened with her, and obviously she had injuries, and so there are such examples as well, without going into specifics. So this logic that they were in a relationship maybe, but the rapes happen, even marital rapes happen for that matter, maybe that is not right. So the subject of consent that you guys are talking about, Marzi,
Yeah.
I think that's very important.
It is important, Faridoon. I remember, like, when I walked into Gaiety Galaxy and I was watching Lipstick with Alankrita. That was the first, when the shows happened, the first time the film is released, and all of us are going from one theater to another. And I remember there were these women, who, like a whole bunch of these women came, and they must have all, like, gotten out of matinee show dekhne aayi thi sari ki sari, husband ko chhod kar aayi hongi. And I remember watching it, and I remember that scene where Sushant is thrusting himself upon Konkana, and and then that scene, it riles me, it makes my blood boil. And I'm standing there watching that scene, and I could hear these women giggling, and I was baffled. I just didn't know how to react, and I'm just asking, I'm like, Lanky, like, why are they laughing? Like, why are they giggling, yaar? Like, it's so weird, ye kya reaction hai? So Alankrita just, like, turned to me, and she was just like, Ahana, how else will they react? They don't know how to react. They just don't know. They don't know any better. When you watch a horror film and जब भूत सामने आ रहा था, तुम भी तो हंसने लगते हो ना? And I was like, yeah. And I said, because I don't know how to react to something that I don't know how to, I'm not aware of how to react to that situation. So, and that point of time, it made me realize, like, hum log, we're really far away. We're very far removed. Like, imagine something like a marital rape, which is all right in, in our lives, in this country or around the world. We don't even talk about that. Consent is a huge conversation, and we have just started having conversations about so many things. But having said that, we cannot ever ignore this. This is a very important conversation. When somebody says no, it does mean no.
Right. Right. There have been multiple cases of domestic violence during the pandemic all across the world, and a lot has been said about that as well. Now, on the other side, there is another picture where one knows that false allegations are leveled, sometimes for publicity, sometimes for blackmailing, or maybe sometimes for other reasons, and it's pretty apparent that these are false allegations. Do you think that it really harms the cause for women in the long run?
Of course it does. The Me Too movement has been entirely diluted because of this, because it became a revenge story after a point. And then what about those who actually had real stories? What about them? Those have been completely, like, meddled with, completely. And it's all gone, because what is the point? Because you became like the boy who cried wolf. Because because you wanted to, because you didn't get a certain role in a certain film, so you're going to take the career down of that person. I mean, what are you doing here? You've ruined the work of so many women who have actually had real stories and scary stories. So they've diluted the entire movement. And it really, like, think about it, yeah. It took 100 women to take one Harvey Weinstein down. 100 women in America. We're still talking about India, which is far removed. हम लोग तो अभी basics के लिए झगड़ा कर रहे हैं. These are conversations that, like, those guys have moved beyond basics. Now they are, like, having these conversations because they can afford to have those conversations. But even then, it took about 100 women to take one man down. Here, I think a movement started, a conversation started, something started, and then it completely went away like the way it came. Because, there were false allegations, there was things were done for publicity, for PR. And I don't know what those women got out of that. 2 minutes of fame. Nothing lasts for 2 minutes of fame.
One other very important aspect that comes out from Marzi is the state of mental health, especially for women, many women, as we see in the character of Rajiv's wife's friend and what she is going through. Other people as well. Rashmi ji, for example, the way she's battling with her. Now, what my personal assessment about you is that you're a very passionate person. You know, in terms of that, you are very, very driven. By whatever you do, you just give it your like 200% maybe.
Yeah.
But tell me your journey. I'm sure that, maybe you faced rejections, you faced other shortcomings of other people, and that has maybe steeled you up and driven you. And I feel that you've had your share of issues maybe in life, and you overcome them, and maybe that has made you stronger. Tell me your story.
It's been quite simple, Faridoon. I came into the world of theatre not knowing where it's going to lead me. I came to Prithvi Theatre for a workshop. That's my story. I did a workshop of acting with puppets and masks, and I liked that, and I loved that world, and I still love Prithvi Theatre, and I have spent endless days and endless nights out there working in the festival, doing everything that I can, handling props to actors when they need, doing backstage ka kaam, selling tickets, doing whatever it took me to be close to performance art, because I was just so consumed by that space. My mentors have been Makaran Deshpande, Nasir Sir, Ratna Pathak. They are so consumed by their work. My first, co-actor was Batan Sahab. He's so consumed by his work, by his art. These are the people who I worked with right in the beginning of my career. So right in the beginning only I saw that people who are so passionate about their jobs are the only ones who last. If you're not passionate, you're not going to last. And I want to have a short-lived career. I want to have a long career. And I've heard so much of like, oh, she's not beautiful, she's not pretty, I don't think she can do it, she's too strong, ये बहुत लंबी है, ये बहुत पतली है, ये बहुत मोटी है. Everything about me. मैंने बहुत चीजें सुनी है, and it's fine. Everybody's entitled to an opinion, but does that make me hate me? No, I don't think so. And that makes me even stronger. Every time somebody says something against me, I go like, I'm gonna prove you wrong. I just go like that, and then boom, I get cast in something else. So it's fine. I feel like when you don't get cast in something, you're not required there, and it's okay. It's not personal. It's not like somebody does not like you. I just think you're not required there, and I've made my peace over the years about that. And there are lots of roles sometimes when I watch that film and I go like, I should have done that. I would have done that better. And I do that a lot. But I watch everybody's work, and I watch everybody's work like a hawk. I learn from every actor. I respect all my co-actors. I absolutely respect, because मुझे लगता है कि किसी की story easy नहीं है. वो सब लड़ झगड़ कर आए हैं जहां आए हैं. There's so much of all this that happens in our industry that you have to like really you have to develop a thick skin to be in the film business. It's such a hard business. And if you don't develop that thick skin, you cannot be part of this space. So you have to have that. And then there is a lot that will come, So there'll always be somebody. There's always somebody coming. There's always somebody coming. You have to make space for that. So all I want to do is just be a greedy actor and be able to work with everyone. I don't want मैं एक actor नहीं छोड़ने वाली. मैं सबके साथ काम करूँगी. Just made my peace with it.
What is important for you? Quest for excellence, or that desire to be featured on magazine covers or to be seen at parties and to be talked about?
What do you think, Faridoon? I think you know my answer.
I'm just asking you.
Of course, I think I anyways have never been like, I don't think like it matters to me anymore, because it's never really happened. I don't know when will it happen. It may happen, it may not happen. I think I'd rather be remembered for my work. I'd rather have like a young actor, when they are looking at a filmography, I want them to be like, I want to watch this actress's work. I want to watch Aahana's work because she's done this in this show, and then she's done this in this film, and then she did this in this show, and then she did this in this. I mean, for me, उससे बड़ा अवार्ड क्या होगा कि कोई यंग एक्टर जब मेरा काम देखेगा, जैसे मैं कितने एक्टर्स का काम देखती हूँ, and I go like, this is my filmography. I want to be able to have a glorious career like this actress, you know, how she's played this part. How did she do this scene? There's so many times when I revisit a scene of an actress and I go like, how did she do it? How did she do it? I want to know what was the preparation for behind this scene, you know, and I think that's my driving force. And आप magazines में आओगे, but वो कागज है, वो आएगा और चला जाएगा. But film is there to stay. It'll always stay. It'll always be there. I want to be in those glorious books and not these glorious books. It's fine.
Right. No, I think that it's always amazing talking to you, Aahana. And I think as long as you're cycling the way you're cycling in Marzi and in real life and sweating it out, I think that you'll always remain young as well. It's not merely the young actors, it's like you will always remain young. Okay, so thank you very much and all the best wishes and congratulations once again.
Thank you so much, Faridoon. Lots of love to you and duas.
Thank
Take
you.
care.